Happy Diwali to all of you. And let me thank, first of all, the IEEE Forum and the UVC Graduates Association who have given me this opportunity to put across my views and to open a few doors and windows to the innovations that are happening in the EV technology. I was extremely glad to learn from Varsha that they have a robotics group called Yantrik, which are already looking into the EV domain. It is very encouraging for me to know that this is happening in universities. Like Varsha's invitation said, yes, transportation is transformation. So I will be giving you an overview about the innovation that is happening and in EVs. And I'll take you through our own innovations which we underwent at Eco Vehicles. Thank you once again. I will start. Yes. I hope I'm audible and the slideshow is visible to all. So my opening slide is about the vehicle drive components. Now, on the left, you will see the gasoline engine vehicle. On the right, you will see a simple electric vehicle. Now, from this, I don't have to explain anything further. You could see that the drivetrain of an electric vehicle is so simple. The drivetrain of a gasoline engine vehicle has so many components, and they need to take care of a lot of issues, especially emission. This is self-explanatory. I don't need to talk more about this. So let me touch upon the facts and drivers for use of EVs. Now, EVs was earlier considered to be more of a personal transport vehicle. It was considered to be, some niche product which, only people who can afford it own it, or those who are conscious about environment, and there was a very small pocket of users. But today, from there, it's moving towards mass production with new designs. This is happening because of lightweight bodies. The design is ensuring that EV's needs of having lightweight bodies is met, and of course, the very fast emerging battery technologies. We have seen excellent growth in the battery technologies. Now, EVs are not just personal transport, like I said, but they are addressing the public. So here we are talking about the fleet markets. We are talking about service-oriented vehicles, where the vehicle ownership itself is not there. This is going to be the future. So in this scenario, the mass, the volume, everything will pick up, and this is opening up a lot of opportunities which were non-existent earlier for the electric vehicles. Of course, adaptation to alternate and sustainable energies is much more, the awareness is much more today compared to even a decade ago. We know about that. We know how climate change and the impact of CO2 emissions is affecting our universe, our earth, everything. The awareness is there, and the drive is happening towards electric vehicles. Basically, we're looking at emission-free transportation. Of course, rising oil prices has always been there, especially for India. It's been always a concern. But there was no alternate till recently, or there was an alternate which was not affordable till recently. So this kind of did not give a push to the electric vehicles. But today we are seeing those uncertainties are not there. And the oil scenario is getting from bad to worse. The limited supplies, we don't know when this resource will dry up. Another key driver towards use of EVs has been the very many incentives that are being put forth by the government. Incentives, if you ask me, is not a key driver. Incentives are just to give the initial push. What we need to do is match an electric vehicle technology with the existing IC vehicle technology. And that is going to be our success story. So incentives will help us to drive there, to pick up volumes, to give it the push. Thereafter, we'll have to go on our own momentum. Of course, another major event that has been happening, like all of us are aware, if you have been a part of the EV industry and following the news, there has been an immense amount of funding which is happening. There's a lot of government funding as well as VCs, there's bank, international funding, everything coming up. And that is helping the growth of innovation as well as mass production. Now, in addition to that, OEMs have now put their foot forward and they are taking it to the next level. Not only in India, all over the world, you have seen OEMs coming up with their own electric variants. So these are the key drivers for an electric vehicle. Now, what are the policies and the support that electric vehicles are receiving today? I'm talking only about, the present scenario. I'm not going into the past, but today the present scenario is much more friendly. We have a specific EV R&D mission to accelerate EV adoption. Now, this is created by our government where they want to increase sustainable transportation systems. They want to enable deployment of EV charging systems because the grid services are very important for the success of electric vehicles. So the range anxiety will disappear once we have a deployment of huge charging networks. Of course, the other major driver, which is, today all over the world has created a lot of excitement, a lot of reality, is the gigawatt-hour scale battery manufacturing. Now, this scale of manufacturing of batteries has never happened specifically for electric vehicles. We did have pockets here and there, of course, apart from China, which had huge capacities of lead acid batteries. But other than that, the world over, we did not have. But this move of establishing giga factories is going to give a fantastic push to electric vehicles because cost of batteries become more affordable. And now coming to the supply chain side, there was a non-existent supply chain. Most of the supply chain existed either in Europe or China, a little bit in the US. Today, the focus is being given in all countries to create an independent manufacturing hub for EV component development and production. So Lighthouse technology is what is the term today, where EV is going to be supported by multiple vendors who manufacture all these components so that we build up our capacities. And another major thrust by the government has been the incubation program for SMEs and startup companies. I think every day in the paper you are reading about companies being incubated, startups being funded by government as well as private agencies. And there is a very well-focused research program laid out by the government of India. If you go through the net, you will find the policy document on how specific areas are being focused on for the EV domain so that we build core competency in these domains. For example, the motors or the batteries or the power electronics, etc. So now the third major thrust that has been given by the government is the smart city concept. Smart city design inherently takes care of deployment of charging stations, infrastructure for EVs, and creation of microgrids. So this is going to be a very positive approach for deployment of EVs. Of course, the last but not the least, today, innovation can happen with good amount of support in the IP and patent domain, arena, because earlier patents filed in India, we know it is hardly 10% of what is being filed across the world. Now, this needs to go up. There have been a lot of innovation. There has been a lot of, discoveries, but due to non-support by the government or by proper patent protection laws and IP laws, this has never seen the light of the day. So now focus is being given here where innovation will be protected by IPs and patent laws. So I think if all of you know about the basics of an electric vehicle, I'm assuming that because of the lack of time, we can't go into the total technology per se, but I would like to touch upon briefly the key components. Now, basically, there are three forms of electric vehicles. One is the pure electric, which has only the battery. We call it the battery electric vehicle, BEV. Then we have the HEV, which is the hybrid with extended range due to gasoline supplement. So here you have that working in tandem with the gasoline engine. Then you have the plug-in EVs, which combines benefits of both. Each one has got its advantages, disadvantages, but ultimately the drive is towards BEV, which we are talking about 2030 and upwards. All countries would like to go into the BEV segment. Maybe the HEV and PHEV will be a bridge till we emerge into the BEV segment. When coming to the motors, we have seen that basically these are 5 types of motors that are being used in the EV industry. You have the BLDC, the brushless DC motors. It is very, very economical and very popular in electric 2 and 3 wheelers, basically because they are lightweight, though on the expensive side, they are manufactured in a very large scale, so costs have been very, very affordable. Next, you have the permanent magnet synchronous, we call it PMSM. These are used in motorcycle, cars, buses, where you need high power, high torque requirements. Then you, of course, have the typical AC induction motors. These are for high-end applications. You have what is called as the interior permanent magnet motors. These have very unique capabilities in giving very good torque. Of course, all these are bulky, all these are heavy, and they are on the expensive side. But this is the solution for heavy-duty vehicles. And of course, what we have seen in the Tesla vehicles are the permanent magnet switched reluctance motors. These are becoming very popular because you can get immense torque as well as very, very good range. So this is touching upon the motors. Coming to batteries. Now, we all understand the battery is the center of any electric vehicle. It is the key component. Batteries have been emerging in terms of performance over the past 20 years. It basically has been lead acid battery. Lead acid is the good old battery which we have been using for 100 years, proven technology. You know what can go wrong, what cannot go wrong, but huge limitations on this because like you can see in this graph, though the cost is low, you have very less range. So naturally, you are not going to get the performance that is desired, which is on par with a IC engine vehicle. So there are barriers in terms of the number of cycles. Next, of course, this has now emerged. There was in between the nickel metal hydride batteries, which had some inherent cost issues. Of course, now it has totally migrated to lithium-ion batteries. In lithium, you have different combinations. You have the phosphate, you have the zinc. There are so many combinations of lithium, which is now becoming more or less an established fuel for electric vehicles. Now, we are seeing that we have reached up to 8,000, 10,000 cycles. It's going up to 15,000. When we get into the flow battery scenario, we are expecting that we can get huge ranges. So this curve is what we look at happening in the future. And this is where a huge opportunity exists for us to look into how we can very quickly turn around this technology to be used very, very to enhance performance in electric vehicles. Now, coming to major players, I'll just touch upon this slide. You can always go through it later. We have in the car segment, the name that comes up to us right now, I think in India, it's been Mahindra. We have been seeing the Tata Tiggo recently. Of course, Tesla is the world number one. And I think everybody has Tesla on the tip of their tongue. You have the motorcycles. A lot of entries have been made. They are still to pick up. But a lot of effort. They've gone through the homologation process. And I'm sure the road is looking very forward to this. The revolution that is slowly coming into India has been setting up of the charging stations. So a lot of companies have entered into this and have been providing charging stations wherever the density of electric vehicles has been growing. And this is going to be deployed with the support of the government, with funding, etc. This deployment is going to happen very fast. We'd have the good old scooter segment, which is part of eco vehicles. Here you have almost all the OEMs today have entered into this arena. So that is definitely going to give a lot of confidence apart from bringing costs down. Of course, buses, at present we have Tata, but of course, internationally, there are many, many more. And we look forward to public transport becoming in the electric. You all must have heard that Karnataka government is taking a lead on procuring electric buses, and that's on the anvil. We hope to see light of the day very, very soon. So apart from this, there's a whole lot of EV component manufacturers who have come into the supply chain. The whole ecosystem has started building up. You can see everybody in this, each with their own technology, each with their own niche. You can every international player, national players have all entered into this by providing a very, very rapid ecosystem to support the manufacturing of electric vehicles. So this, I wanted to give you an overview till now about what is changed today to help innovation. So with so many things happening, I think the boost that is required by innovators, by designers, is really going to be very, very, very positive. Coming to our company, Eco Vehicles, we were a company established in 2002. We were the first in India when there were no laws existing for the electric vehicle. I hope many of you have had an opportunity to look at the video that was circulated by Varsha. That's about Mr. Anil Ananthakrishna, who was the innovator, the designer, and his passion was EVs for more than 40 years. That's my late husband, Anil Ananthakrishna. So evolution, if you've seen the movie, I think you will know it started off simply with a bicycle in 1973, and a commercial vehicle called Vidyut was established in the year 74, went into production in the 80s, and it continued. We had a lot of evolution happening for the two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four-wheelers, including, as you can see, a tractor with way back in the 90s. 2000 again, there was a very good momentum picking up for electric. After 80s, there was a lull. Not much of electric vehicles being deployed anywhere in the world for that matter. Slowly, except I think golf carts was one segment which started building very rapidly. But in 2000 onwards, again, the momentum picked up. Same reason, petrol costs. Second reason, a supply chain got created in China, which helped to give thrust to this product. So we entered the arena again in 2002 with a product called EcoCosmic. Thereafter, we had done, we had 3 models, and up to 2010, we continued with our work in development of various types of electric vehicles. This is just to give you a simple graphical representation of what we did from 2004-05 onwards, beginning with 110 vehicles. We totally supplied 20,408 vehicles during this period and peaked at almost 9,600 vehicles in 7-8. So we've had our footprints in all areas. We call it development, sales, production, dealer network, business development, advertising. We've been there. We've proven the concept and then exited. So what did we do after that? Mr. Anil passed away in 2012. After that, we decided we will focus all on, by then there were other players coming up in the EV domain. So we decided our focus can be on the technologies that we had on hand. So these are, I'm just going to run you through a few of the IPs and designs by Mr. Anil. So his development, his innovating capabilities were amazing. He could just overnight come up with new designs, new ideas. So I'll share with you a few of those key technologies. So these are some of the prototypes that we had built and proven in the market. The first one is a rapid charger. This was developed way back in 2000, late 90s, 2000, knowing that the ecosystem of the vehicle needs public charging. So this charger was built for lead acid batteries, where you could publicly charge your vehicle. We call them charge and chai corners. And this was built with proprietary algorithms so that the multi-vehicles can be charged at any given time of point. And for fleet buyers specifically, for public, even including if in future the auto rickshaws came into the picture. So this was a prototype. We deployed it in the market with our dealers. We deployed vehicles as well as a charger in Coffee Day and did a pilot run, which was very, very successful. We have the prototype still with us, and it can be demonstrated anytime any of you would like to see it. So next, this is again one of the vehicles which I would like to share with you. Apart from the multiple two-wheelers that we have, this was a hybrid two-wheeler, which was with IC engine as well as a retrofit electric kit. So this resulted, the electric kit was built in such a way, this had lithium-ion batteries. This was released in 2010. It had a retrofit kit with the rear wheel was a hub motor. You had the batteries, you can see the compartment here, which had housing the lithium-ion batteries, and we had the controller. So here we did test runs and proved that the range went up to 120 kilometers as a hybrid vehicle. We retained, this is a Hero Honda Passion vehicle, which was converted to a hybrid, 100cc vehicle. We did not touch upon the speed of the vehicle. We retained the same speed, but we could go up to 60 kilometers per hour if need arises. Similarly, we did the TVS 50. So here also, we incorporated lead acid batteries using a conversion kit. So these two were flagship products which OEMs themselves were amazed and were very eager to see how we can go forward. Of course, our idea was to sell it as retrofit kits so that vehicles in the market which are out of warranty period could fit these on their vehicles, just like the gas retrofit kits that are fitted into cars today. Now, coming to some of the innovations. Am I too fast?
No, I guess, madam, it's fine.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So these are a few of, we had totally 13 patents filed for various technologies in the electric vehicle field, from the component level to the design level to the vehicle level. I'm sharing a few here just to ignite your minds as to look at the practical possibilities of innovation and how to think out of the box. Innovation happens when you think out of the box. Innovation does not happen if you are looking to reinvent the wheel. So I'm just throwing open a few of the technologies that we had developed during the past, say from 2000 onwards. There were many, many more before that, but I'm going to focus on these few. So here you have a flywheel power system in an electric vehicle. Now you can see this figure here, which has cell 1, cell 2, cell 3, cell 4. Now what is this doing in a wheel? That could be your question. So what we have done here is, we have created a flywheel using the battery. So the battery pack in the flywheel is configured as a rotor. It has its own electronic control and the power supply. So by this, what happens? The flywheel is made up of a single or hybrid chemistry batteries that form the container. The rotating mass of the batteries is a combinational power pack of kinetic energy and chemically stored potential energy. Now, this is going to give momentum to drive the vehicle on its own. See, there's no hard and fast rule. I think all of you have seen batteries, the lead acid batteries. I don't know how many. Lithium ion, of course, it's existing everywhere, right? From our mobiles to everything is lithium ion. But in lead acid, if you have seen in your UPS and in all other commercial applications, they're tubular, right? Now, there's no hard and fast rule that it should be tubular. It started off like that, but after that, we did not think about anything but in tubular form. So here is one thought process where we thought that these batteries could become the power pack itself in the wheel. Just think about it. This is out of the box, okay? We did simulations and proved that it will work. We did not build a prototype, but simulations were done. This is one. I'm just throwing off ideas to you which are realistic, not just imaginary. So coming to this, it is a foldable electrically powered vehicle with a portable power pack. I think I gave away the answer. Now here, there is no battery in this vehicle. The vehicle does not contain the battery. The battery is portable and it comes in a backpack. I can share these patent documents with you, whoever is interested to study it in detail and understand, how technology can be played around with. So here, the battery is in a power pack. You plug it into your vehicle when you're riding and then plug it out and take it for charging. The other aspect of this vehicle, it is foldable. You can see the folding mechanism, very simple. It just sits like a grid, which you can carry around. And it's a fast folding mechanism. Now, another concept that was brought into this vehicle was using pastable solar cells. Pastable solar cells are available. They were available then itself. Today, they are a little more popular. Pastable solar cells on the body of the vehicle to help charge the batteries. It also has a collapsible solar panel here, which you can see just above the rear wheel. This panel can be deployed as and when you are riding. So this is, it can charge the batteries and provide that little bit of extra power, because for an electric vehicle, the battery needs constantly to have power to give us a better range. Another unique idea here, again, I'm just bouncing these ideas off you so that you will understand. These are the wheels here are inflatable honeycomb structures. Okay. This can also be done for the body. Now here, the wheels are inflatable and deflatable. When you're not using it and you want to use the folding mechanism, deflate the wheels, the tires. And when you want to use it, inflate it. No doubt, these kind of wheels are very expensive, but if it can be proven, deployed, sky's the limit. You have an affordable and easy to carry electric two-wheeler, which is also powerful, not an e-bike. It will be better than an e-bike. So the same concept here, the same vehicle deployed with many other additional features where you can monitor the battery. Now we are talking about this patent, which was filed in, I think, 2008. When the RFID technology was just getting very popular. RFID was being used very popularly. So at that point of time, we designed a subsystem where the vehicle battery could be monitored and we could gather data to assess the health of the battery using the mobile network, with the support of the mobile network. So this is another innovation on the same vehicle. Today, this is a reality. The technology is much, much better today. It is a reality, isn't it? We are seeing it in all vehicles. There is constant data monitoring happening, analysis happening, and health of the battery is being monitored. Now, this is a very unique patent we had applied for. If you observe, I have seen you even in the past 3. I don't know if you observed the body styling of this chassis. If you look at all these, the chassis is unusual. It is a V-shaped chassis. Now, this is totally different from what we know as a conventional chassis, which consists of so many pipes and tubes welded together. I don't know how many are mechanical engineers amongst us. I'm sure you will know that any chassis has n number of pipes and joints which are welded. That gives a lot of instability to the strength of the vehicle. So you need to take so many extra precautions, so many other fittings to make sure that the chassis is sturdy. Now, in this, we came up with a unique monocoque structure where this chassis is an aluminum extrusion. This V-shaped chassis is a hollow aluminum extrusion. I will show you in the next slides. So this acts as a chassis for any electric two-wheeler. It will house the batteries, the components, and any other things that need to be housed. Being aluminum, the biggest advantage, heat dissipation. It acts as a heat sink for the batteries. So the idea here was to make it so modular in nature that you can convert this to anything you want. For example, if you see the next two vehicles, the next two drawings, this is two of these chassis put together. You can see four here. They are joined together with a collapsible mechanism, okay, which can be simply a two-wheeler like this or can be converted into a simple four-wheeler, an auto rickshaw kind of a thing with very light body styling. So these ideas have bounced off from just the thinking that how to control the heat of the battery, how to make sure that the batteries don't get heated up and cause damage as well as reduction in performance of the vehicle. So all these ideas have bounced off this one problem that an electric vehicle has. So here again, coming to the monocoque structure, just to give you an idea, going one step higher, this is the extruded parts. So this can be converted into a chassis like this. You have the swing arm, you have the wheels, etc. This is the vehicle in its final form. And this vehicle in this form, I think, doesn't look attractive. Because in our country, unfortunately, looks matter a lot. I'm not talking about the opposite sex. I'm talking about a vehicle here. If you ask the youngsters today who are in this forum, whether they will buy an Activa or a KTM if they have the money, I'm sure 100% they will all go for KTM. It's the looks, the speed, the excitement of owning a huge vehicle. So, but we also have, on the other hand, the TVS 50. It is selling in millions. There's no looks in that. How does that happen? It is rugged. It serves its purpose of transportation, and that's all some users want. So our solution here was, this is for simple applications where people are not much bothered about body styling. The next phase, chassis could be used with a fantastic body styling like what you see in the last picture. The same chassis, give it a beautiful body styling. Anil used to call these frocks. He would say, we will have 10 different frocks in the dealer showroom. Buyers can come and choose the frock for their vehicle on the lighter side. Okay. Yes. Coming to another idea. I think all of us know batteries. We studied it right from school. We know the process of electrolysis. We know there's a positive plate, a negative plate, which is shown here. This is a positive, negative. This is a typical battery construction that we have studied right from our school days. Now, a few disadvantages of the lead acid batteries has been sulfation. Sulfation reduces the life of the battery. Lots of work is being done even today in how to reduce sulfation, because all said and done, lead acid batteries are being used extensively in other industries like telecom or power backup, and it's being used extensively. So this issue is a constant factor which is nagging users because of the huge cost in replacement. So even in electric vehicles, since we dealt mainly with lead acid during our tenure between 2004 to 2012, lithium ion was just emerging then. It was very, very expensive. So how to solve this problem? Now, here again, an idea. Is there any hard and fast rule that there should be only one terminal in a plate? It's because we've been taught like that. We've been seeing it like that. Why not have 4 terminals on all the 4 sides of each plate? So that when you are charging, discharging, the electrolysis is happening all around the plate and sulfation does not happen the way it happens when there is only one terminal, which is at the top. The flow of current will go right up to the bottom. So this was another idea that bounced off, again, the problem of cost of battery and life of battery. Now, if you look at these round figures, you must be wondering, what is this? The figure 2. Figure 2 shows, again, the battery plate. Is there a hard and fast rule that it should be rectangular? Why not it be round? Why not you have terminals all around the battery? So this concept was proved in our very own lab. We built the batteries normal as well as with these kind of plates, and we found that they were 30% more efficient than the regular lead acid batteries. So what you have here is an embodiment of one or more than one terminal per plate, an embodiment of 2 plates designed in pie-shaped, built similar in geometry, and an embodiment of 3 plates designed geometrically such that electron charge distribution is even throughout the surface area of the plate. Simple, but we never thought about it. So this is how simplistically innovation can happen. Now we are seeing a lot of deployment of charging stations. All of you, have you all seen the Aether charger? It is fixed on a lamp post. It is fixed on any, a wall, etc. So this is the concept that we had planned, where it is an intelligent, rapid charging system for the lead acid batteries with a proper energy distribution and management system, because we are ultimately dependent on the grid. And those days, of course, we didn't have the wireless communication, etc. So we were thinking about telemetric communication and with proper encryption, etc. And with payment gateways, so that it becomes a service and becomes a revenue generation for a standalone system where people can come charge in chai corners. So this is another one. I hope you all are not getting bored with innovation.
No, ma'am.
Well, okay. So this is the modular drive brushless DC motor. We all talked about brushless DC motors. I think all of us know about motor, right? The technology behind it. We have the rotor, we have the stator, okay? And we have the shaft. Now, in this, the idea was you have a single embodiment with the rotor having the magnets disposed on the inner surface, like what you see here. So this rotor has the magnets deployed here as per design that is required. You have the stators here, and you have a plurality of slave control and commutation units. So why do you need this? This will help us to generate the requisite torque and speed of the rotor. Now, in an electric vehicle, we are all aware the initial starting current is very high. That's where the battery power gets discharged. So how can we reduce that? One way of doing it is have a motor which has multiple stator windings, if you look at it. Use all the stators during startup. During cruising, it can switch depending on the speed or the other factors that influence an electric vehicle: gradient, speed, wind energy, so many other factors. Okay, weight, the weight of the payload, etc. So if you have a stator modular drive brushless DC motor like this, you are not only going to improve on your battery, you are going to save on running costs also. No doubt, initially it may be expensive, but ultimately the benefits are going to be tremendous. Now, when I spoke about the battery and I'm talking now about the motor, your mind opens up that batteries are used everywhere. Motors are used everywhere. This concept could be universal applications, not just for EVs. It could be for universal applications. It's existing in some of the products, like, of course, it's not in multiple commutation, like you look at, multiple speed, like a fan or a mixie or those low-end applications. But if you look at the higher requirements where torque is very, very important, power is very, very high, this kind of a motor is going to give a very high efficiency. Yes. So now here I'm talking about an hybrid fuel storage and propulsion system. I showed you the hybrid vehicle that we had built. That's a Hero Honda Passion. Now, what happens when we have it as a hybrid? You don't need to fill up petrol full tank, right? You need more efficient batteries. So the idea here was to create a hybrid battery by itself, which consists of lead acid, lithium ion, if required nickel metal hydride, and a fuel cell, a methanol based fuel cell, to form the hybrid battery pack and fuel storage. So your petrol engine here, you will need only one compartment for the petrol. This compartment can be for lithium, this could be for lead acid. Your fuel cell station will be here, your controllers will be here, and you are good to go. So the idea here was, without disturbing or causing any design, because we like good designs. So in the existing design, how can we accommodate? Yes, it may not be easy. It may not be as good as it sounds. It is going to involve a lot of work. It may work, it may not work, but it is a concept which is doable. So this is another concept which we were thinking. And one step above this was to create a self-charging onboard system. Now, methanol-based fuel cells were planned so that the fuel cells charge this hybrid battery combination. We don't need to go to the grid. The methanol, which is available in plenty, has to be tapped yet. If we can have methanol-based cartridges, you just have to keep changing the cartridges to charge your battery. This is a proven concept in higher applications. In the US, it's been proven, but for electric vehicles, smaller applications, it's not yet. A company called NIA has been a pioneer in this, and they have done it including for space applications. Now, coming to the hybrid power plant, this was another concept. It's already a reality today. You can see charging stations, multiple charging stations are the future. The idea here again was to be away from the grid, have solar panels to charge your battery bank, have wind energy, solar, and only in case of necessity, go to the grid. Otherwise, you could charge your vehicles off the grid. Well, this is about innovation at Eco Vehicles over a period of 40 years. There's much, much more, but I've just tried to ignite a few of the ideas that we proved that can be implemented commercially with further research and prototyping. Now, just coming briefly to touch upon what I do at PES University. So I think many of you must be wondering, from PES University, why UVC? UVSC is my alma mater, and I want to do something there. I really want to see that awareness about EVs comes through in our college. And with autonomy just on the border, I'm very, very hopeful that a lot of thrust will be given to electric vehicles. So we have this lab in EV where we have 14 different types of two-wheelers where students can come, touch, feel, and learn about the basics of electric vehicles. I mentor students on projects for EVs. So the 7th semester, 8th semester students, they take up projects and do it on the campus. So you don't have to go running around asking for projects with the industry. And internship opportunities are provided in related industries through the networking and connectivity. PES students have participated in many competitions in the past 5 years. They have won few, they have won a lot of recognition. 5 all India level competitions where recently IIT Chennai funded the whole two-wheeler project. They called it Vision X. They funded the whole project and a lot of appreciation was given for the way the vehicle was built. It was on par with KTM, by the way. And students themselves have done a lot of research papers and presented in forums like IEEE, including one in a US university. So this is what happens in PES University. How am I on time, Varsha?
We're exactly on time, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So this was about a little bit of background, a little bit of the present scenario. Now I'm going to come into what are the emerging technologies in the next 5 years. Here again, there are plenty of technologies coming up. I'm only focusing on a few key technologies, which I hope will enable you to think about other areas where you can, if you would like to, get into the innovation. Now, innovation is not just, sitting and doing research. Innovation happens in many, many ways. You'll have to just open up your minds, think out of the box. So now, what are the drivers for this? Increased capacity, range, and lower price. So these are the 3 things always in focus for an electric vehicle. We want the best performance, we want the best range, and at the lowest price. So one of the things, very interesting technologies coming up is the bidirectional charging, where you charge your vehicle and also once it is charged, till it's not being used, push the energy back into the grid or into your home or into your office. This is happening in the solar domain. I think all of you must have come across. It has taken so many years for us to come there, but today it is immediately possible in an electric vehicle power pack. So bidirectional charging is happening in European countries. It's been a very good success story there. We have to look at it from that perspective here because that will lower costs and we'll be able to recover. As it is, electric vehicles are much, much cheaper to run. The running costs are so low. We'll be able to recover faster. Graphene batteries is the next big thing that is coming up after lithium technologies. Graphene has very good power density and that is what is pushing it. Charging time will reduce and the size is smaller, slimmer, and this is what will drive the graphene batteries. A lot of test success stories are there. If you go through the net, there are plenty of papers on this, plenty of inputs on what is happening in this domain and what can be done further. Solid state batteries is another huge opportunity which is coming up, again because of a higher energy density and a lifespan is literally lifelong. And of course, keeps in mind the safety parameters. Fuel cells has been there always. It has been the cost which has not been commercially exploited because of high costs. But as volumes pick up, I'm sure this will also see the light of the day. Then you have the hybrid ecosystems of the powertrains. Now you can see plenty of manufacturers getting into this domain of providing hybrid powertrains. Okay, where you can have the hybrid and the electric going till such time we totally migrate towards electric. So these powertrains are picking up very, very rapidly, especially in developing countries where there is already IC engine vehicles on the road in a very high density. Then the most interesting which are coming up are the electrified roads. You must have read Sweden has this already, China has this already. They have electrified roads in some segments and it's not deployed overall and it's been proven to be very, very successful. So this is one area which is going to solve a whole lot of problems in terms of the electric vehicle in the long run. So, you do away with the battery totally. You have a normal vehicle. You're not going to be spending much on all other fronts of the vehicle. Another very interesting concept has been the pop-up chargers. So these chargers are available by the roadside. As your vehicle nears it, the sensors will activate this charging station, which will pop up and you can charge your vehicle. Of course, these are still not fast chargers or super fast chargers. They charge in about 3 hours, but you'll have a slot and then you can leave your vehicle. Otherwise, you don't have to fear that this is a charging station, and they are very slim. It's just like the roadside pillars that we come across. Very, very slim, because the rest of the system is underground. So this is a very unique concept, which makes it very user-friendly and provides a lot of comfort to EV users. Then we are coming up with wireless charging in a very big way. See, wireless charging is happening. We are seeing it in mobiles, but it is also being done in the EV domain. Qualcomm is one of the leaders in that, and that is going to also be a very big game changer for electric vehicles. So these are a few of the technologies. I'm just, kind of enlightening you about what is happening, but there are many things. On the motor end, there are so many other things happening. On the EV components per se, there are a lot of things happening. There are a lot of ideas that you can come up with. See, today, an electric two-wheeler, for example, has a throttle with which you should start. Now, I can do away with the throttle and just have a mobile to start the vehicle. Why do I need the throttle if I can control it with my mobile? So there are many such innovations that can be done. I'll talk about that in my next slide. So now batteries. Now coming again to the heart of batteries. My favorite subject is batteries in electric vehicles. So we are looking at what is going to happen in the next few years. What are the trends that are going to come up? Okay, lead acid is going to keep on getting improved if possible. It has reached its saturation, but yes, if it can provide more number of cycles with some modifications, for example, if somebody adapts the technology of the plates, probably that could be something. So these are the trends that are happening. Now, lithium ion, like I said, is there at the top. You have sodium nickel chloride batteries. You have sodium sulfur batteries, zinc bromine, vanadium flow batteries. Vanadium flow batteries are very good in terms of number of cycles that you can. It's literally lifetime, but it is bulky, it is expensive. So there a lot of work is happening in that, where you could use the vanadium and lithium as a hybrid and things like that. Lead acid, like I said, it's going on. We are always attempting, because lead acid is an established industry. You just cannot write off and say we don't need lead acid. We need to improvise and see how to get the best. Yeah. So now I'm coming to almost the concluding part of my presentation. We are looking at academy-industry collaboration and research opportunities for students. Now, this is a totally new area in the EV segment. It's happening in software, it's happening in all other mechanical side, in the power electronic side. There have been a lot of such associations which have happened. This should be applicable even to electric vehicles if we need to see this industry growing. See, it cannot grow on its own. It needs a whole ecosystem, beginning with manufacturing, engineering knowledge, and intellectual properties. So a combination of all this only is going to help this industry. So in batteries, I'm just listing out a few of the opportunities that you could again start thinking about. Microgrids, they are still very expensive to establish. There are risks involved. How can we address this? You have conversion kits. Now there's going to be whole millions of vehicles on the road, which after 5 years, generally people sell off or they don't use it and junk it and things like that. If we could extend the lifespan of that by another 5 years to give a very efficient performance, why not? So retrofit kits could be another way. And the very, very concerning thing here is recycling of batteries. Let it be lead acid, lithium, or any other battery. What are we going to do after its lifespan? Now, lithium after 5 years, what do we do? How are we going to recycle it? How are we going to recover it? This is also very important in the ecosystem. You cannot say I'm going to use it and then I'm going to throw it. No, we have to recycle these batteries. And there's a huge opportunity here to create an ecosystem to recycle these batteries. We are looking at super fast, not just fast and rapid charging. It should be super fast charging. Diagnostics and data is a very big thing today. I think all of us know that data today has become the fulcrum of our lifestyle. In an electric vehicle, the more the diagnostics and data, the better the performance of your vehicle, the efficiency improves, because we are monitoring minute by minute, which has not been happening all these decades. Today, we are able to find out what is wrong. We are able to find out the health of the battery, the health of the vehicle. Okay, and this will lead to better battery management and battery swapping also. The ease of swapping should be so simple that, on the move, you can just exchange your battery, pick up your new battery and go. So these are some areas which already work has been done. We could focus more on this. And IoT, I think all of us know, it's making life heavenly. Okay. Our intelligence is being tapped by another intelligence, IoT, AI, all those things. I'm not using the word AI here yet. So this is another possibility where we can improve on diagnostics. We can look at the efficient use of supercapacitors for charging. We all know supercapacitors have huge potential for charging. Unfortunately, they do not hold charge, they get discharged instantaneously. So there's a huge opportunity there to tap this potential and integrate it into other technologies. Wireless, like I already said, it's in the key forefront already. And there are many, many, many more. We can just go on listing it. I'm sure each one of you can add 10 more points here to what are the domains that one could start working on. So what I would like to say here is, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. A lot of work has been done. Let's begin from where it is now. Let's not go back again and try to build a vehicle all over. Let's look at component level. Let's look at minute things which will help in the performance of the electric vehicle. So now, what are the benefits of an academy industry collaboration? So EV technology is a niche technology. It's not been part of our curriculum for a very long time. I mean, it's never been in the curriculum. Slowly now it's being there. It's I think in all IITs do have it, and some of the large universities like SRM, etc. PES, I'm proud to say, I've been instrumental in pushing for it, and now they have a 4-credit course. And it's happening. But what we need is, for electric vehicles, it's very unique. You need knowledge of all streams of engineering. You need to know mechanical, you need to know electrical, electronics, and you need to know a bit of the computer science also. So it's an integration of all streams. So my dream is there should be a course called EV engineering. So that, why? Today we don't have any people experienced in the EV domain. The industry is growing, but there's no talent. It's very negligible. So when people come for placements to take candidates, they don't find in the EV domain, they don't find students who are ready for this industry. So we need to make them ready. So that is where having this as part of the curriculum is very, very important. Placements for students, huge opportunity. Okay, because this is a rising industry. And apart from that, when you do projects on EV, you're learning so much more than what is in the book, right? Hands-on knowledge you're getting. And you're exposed to so many state-of-the-art softwares in terms of design, in terms of simulation. And these are, licenses which are provided to students at very, very economical prices. So universities can tap this potential and train students in using of these softwares to simulate designs, to understand the technology, and then go in for prototyping. Of course, like I said earlier, paper presentations, national, international forums. This is not only gives you a lot of pride, gives the institution a lot of pride, gives the faculty a lot of pride, and it definitely helps you in your career growth. So just to conclude, I think, see, innovative technologies never really die. They stay dormant and activate when the conditions are right. And I can say that with full confidence. We've seen it at Eco Vehicles. What we thought about 10, 15 years ago today has become a reality. It takes time, no doubt about it. It needs patience, it needs funding, it needs a whole lot of things. And adoption of these innovative technology also is guided by internal and external factors. See, the past 5 years, EVs have picked up. But before that, there was a cycle when there was absolutely no market. A very, very thin market, I would say. Not absolutely no, but a very thin market. And infrastructure, any industry, any product needs infrastructure. So that's a very, very big learning. And we need to understand that and wait for the time. Of course, the bigger the innovation, the longer it takes to adopt. And these can be disruptive, create opportunities at the same time. Tesla did not happen overnight. Tesla got huge funds, the timing was right, and they could spend billions of dollars on research and development and investing in huge infrastructure for manufacturing. So when the time is right, everything happens. You need to have those technologies ready so that you don't begin from scratch, you are ready to take it to the market. So this is what I wanted to conclude my session with. If you are not willing to learn, no one can help you. If you are determined to learn, no one can stop you. Zig Ziglar is a site which provides you all these quotes. Okay, I love this one. And it's so true, not only, I'm not talking just from the electric vehicle perspective. It applies to us in all domains of life. So thank you so much for your patient hearing. I'm so glad that you could give me this time and I could put across a few of my thoughts. You're most welcome to get in touch with me. Varsha will be sharing my number, my email ID, etc. I would welcome it. If any of you would like to visit our lab, I could show you around. Hope to ignite some more innovations and research ideas in you and take things forward. Thank you very much.